So earlier in the week we had a look at the Sega Saturn. So today I thought we'd have a quick inspection of the Sega Dreamcast, and this was the successor to the Saturn. Launched in Japan in 1998 and followed in America in 1999 and slightly later in Europe. And this machine also made use of Hitachi processors, but it used off-the-shelf components and wasn't a sort of bespoke jobby, so it was easier to program for. And it was ahead of its time massively. This came out before the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, but the graphical abilities of this were easily on par with both of those machines. I remember seeing it around my mate's house and being blown away by the games. Even games like Virtua Tennis, they were arcade perfect and looked absolutely stunning. And then there were 4-player games, such in the same vein as GoldenEye on the N64, where you had 4-way split screen, because obviously we could have 4 controllers down the front there. And it was a great little console, massively underappreciated. It only sold about 10 million units, about the same as the Saturn, which is a shame because it wasn't high priced either. This was sub £200. And when you compare that, the PlayStation 2 came out at $299 and the Xbox came out at about £300 as well. So this undercut both of those, and it was released earlier. It's just a shame that the Sony PlayStation had already got a nice foothold in the market, and the PlayStation 2 was anticipated and people waited to buy that instead. And obviously the Xbox offered new features, and it was from Microsoft, and it offered amazing graphics, etc, etc, and Xbox Live followed, so it had lots of features. Even though the Dreamcast did have internet capabilities, you could get a keyboard for this thing. You could use the Dreamcast Dreamkey to hook it up to the internet and use an internet browser, which is bloody marvellous. And it had snazzy features such as this visual memory, which plugged into the top of the controllers, and not only could you save your game on them, but you could also use them as a portable game system in itself. You know, it's very limited in its functionality, but you could have like Pokemon pets on it and stuff like that, and feed your Pikachu or whatever you fancy doing when you're on the go. Anyway, let's swing around to the back. On the back you will find it's fairly basic. We have a port to connect up to the internet there, modem port. We have the audio-visual out, serial connector, and AC in. It's a lovely little console, isn't it? Nice and compact, nice fresh looking, and a bit of a departure from the usual black that we're used to with Sega's consoles. So we've got these kind of half oval-ish looking plugs for the controller, which we can plug into there. And it's quite a bulky controller. I love these controllers. They're kind of a halfway house up to the Xbox 360 controller. We've got our D-pad there, we've got our analog stick as well, and our coloured buttons, one of the first machines to feature these. It's very Xbox-like. And we have our memory unit, which will just plug into the console, the controller, like so. And then we get a little display, which we can use in games, can save our games, and we can, like I said, use it for portable gaming. Okay, let's fire her up and see what she can do. So first up, the sequel to one of my favourite games from this era, Crazy Taxi 2. Look at that, slow opening mechanism. You know you've got quality when the mechanism opens like that. Anyway, let's get to it. Now, unlike the Sega Saturn, which was using composite, this Dreamcast came with an RF cable as standard, so a bit of regression there. There we go, and we've got the save file option with the memory card inserted on the screen. The pad there, we can see it's got a little animation. It says Crazy Taxi 2. Now you can see the graphics, they look pretty darn smooth. And you know, this was way ahead of anything we'd had before at the time. Even though this is only an RF picture, it looks amazing. And this is one of the things I loved about the Dreamcast. Everything just looked smooth, everything looked incredible, and we were getting to near real life graphics. I know this is quite cartoony, but it was a massive step up from the PlayStation. And indeed the Saturn. Oh, come on, people. Of course, even though the drive is much quicker in this Dreamcast compared to the Saturn, there's also a lot more data to load. That's why it's noisier. And obviously we've got multiplayer and single player here. And you could hook this up online, which was amazing. And we've only got one analog stick, so we have to use a button to go forward. But, you know, it works. It works very well. This is where analog sticks started to come into their own. Now, I think this is the generation of hardware where really there was no looking back. I mean, if you look before now at PlayStation games and games which came on before, you could tell they were early and they were jagged. But from the Dreamcast onwards, things really changed, and this is more akin to a modern game. Everything is smooth, texture mapped nicely, and although it's not high definition, it still looks pretty damn clear. Now, there was a way to get around the Dreamcast's copy protection, and if you had a certain type of boot disc, like this one, you could power it up and then you could launch other dodgy software off the back of it. So now we can open the CD drive like so, insert the CD we want to boot, and we are booting into Virtua Tennis.
Virtua Tennis.
Now this is the game which really sold the Dreamcast to me, and I remember being astounded by the graphics on this game, and it was the reason why I bought a Dreamcast originally, because it just looks phenomenal. I mean, this could pass for a game today, no problem whatsoever. And you can't lay claim to that on many consoles. I think the Dreamcast is fairly unique with that timeless quality. I've played so many shit tennis games in my life, but my god, this one is the best by far. I even like tennis games particularly. And I thought last I'd just load up the Dreamkey disc just to bring back nostalgic memories. We can't do anything with it because it's not connected up to the internet. There we go. Normally this would be dialing up the modem to connect to the Dream Arena, but of course we can't do that now because that was some 16 years ago. So there it is, the Sega Dreamcast. Could have been so much more, should have been so much more, because frankly it was way ahead of its time and it's a great little console. This was Sega's last home console. From this point on they kind of concentrated mainly on software and licensing and changed their business model entirely, which is sad for all us Sega fanboys who loved these machines so much. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.